Hi everyone, welcome to this video from Elvis the Ultimate Fan channel. Before we dive into the topic, I just want to remind you that I broadcast live every Wednesday and Sunday on this channel. We have Elvis Fan of the Month quiz with prizes. We have Song of the Week, Pick of the Week, live Elvis fan chat, and much more. So I hope you can join me for those live shows. And the first live show of 2022 will be on Sunday the 2nd of January. So without further ado, I'd like to dive into the topic of this video by showing you the locations of Elvis's boyhood homes in Tupelo and Memphis and what they look like today. So we have to start, obviously, with this location behind me on Elvis Presley Drive. And it is obviously the two-room shack where Elvis was born. So let's get started. Okay, so this is the aerial shot of where Elvis Presley's birthplace is on, obviously, Elvis Presley Drive. And if we zoom in, we find ourselves right outside the birthplace. And if we zoom in, you can actually see somebody stood in the doorway. That could be the lady that does the talk when you go in. And if we actually zoom back out and do a little bit of a tour, let's see where we can find ourselves. Let's just drop the man there. And we find ourselves at the back of the home. Obviously, birthplace of Elvis Presley, and of course it gives you all the details. Let's see if we can take a little walk up here. And we see the statue of Elvis. Elvis at 13. So this is where it all started, and I would highly recommend that if you ever do visit Mississippi, and you're an Elvis fan, of course, you visit Elvis Presley's birthplace. So that was 1935, January the 8th, 1935, when Elvis was born in that two-room shotgun shack, as it's known. And in 1940, they moved. They actually lost ownership of the house, unfortunately, because of circumstances. One of the things actually being that Vernon had to go into prison when Elvis was only about 3 years old, I believe, 1938, 1939. But they didn't have to move far, because looking at this map, you can see Reese Street, and that is where they moved to. They moved to Reese Street, and they lived there from 1940 to 1941. They stayed with Vester and Cletus Presley and their daughter Patsy. So I don't think we actually have a number, but you can see it's quite a short street, and it's right next to where Elvis was born, literally round the corner. Simple as that. And I can drop the pin, and you can actually see Reese Street as it is in June 2018 again. So somewhere along here, Vester and Cletus Presley and their daughter Patsy lived, and the Presleys moved in with them for a year or two. Then in 1942, they moved to Kelly Street, a small rented apartment. Again, we don't really have a number, so I will just kind of just drop the pin down in Kelly Street, and you can have a look at what Kelly Street is like again today. Although the most recent, by the looks of it, the most recent shot I have is November 2013. So somewhere along here is where Gladys, Vernon, and Elvis rented a small apartment Obviously, I would imagine that the passage of time now means that that apartment is now gone. And as you can see, they're all sort of private dwellings now. But that kind of gives you an idea. 1942, Kelly Street, a small rented apartment. Then on August the 8th, 1945 to July the 18th, 1946, they moved to Berry Street. And as you can see, it's in close proximity to Reese Street and Elvis Presley Drive, right round the corner again from Elvis Presley's birthplace. So they lived, Doll Smith lived here with the Presleys, and then Minnie Mae Presley moved in. And again, we don't actually have a number, but if I can drag the man to Berry Street, and you can just give you an idea, a very, very small drive, very, very similar to Elvis Presley Drive or Old Saltillo Road that was known at the time that Elvis was born. If I actually turn around, I can show you actually just how close it was to his birthplace. Here's Berry Street, Berry Street, Berry Street. And I think if I turn and then go down this way, we find ourselves back at the two-room shack that Elvis was born in. So you can see just how close they were to his original birthplace. 30 seconds, maybe. A minute at the most. So that was Berry Street, August the 8th, 1945 to July the 18th, 1946. Then for the duration and remainder of 1946, they moved to Commerce Street, again a rental. We don't have numbers. As we go on, later on in this video, we do have exact locations. So, as I say, we will have a lot better view and an idea of exactly where Elvis's home was. I think the first one we're going to have is in 1948, so another year or two, and we'll find out the exact location. But here's Commerce Street, 1946, a rental. Let's drop the pin and see what Commerce Street is like. There's still quite a lot of sort of empty ground on the one side, actually both sides looking at it. And then there are some dwellings further up Commerce Street. Again, there would have been apartments and so forth, and they would have rented one. So after Commerce, they went to 510 Half Maple Street, South Tupelo. They lived with Gladys's cousin, Frank Richards, and his wife, Leona. And let's see if we can get a good look at 510. Okay, so this is 520. Let's move down a little bit. 515. 513. 516, 511. Right, so we're round about here somewhere where the house would have been. Maybe even if I move just down here, there is actually some wasteland here. There could have been there. Although at this passage of time now, it's very, very difficult to place exactly where 510 stood, or 510 and a half. So that was in 1946, 510 and a half Maple Street, South Tupelo. In 1947, they spent a very, very short time in Mulbery Alley. Now, I don't think, if I drag the man, no, you can see the blue line doesn't actually go down Mulbery Alley. But what I can do is I can drop the man at the end of Mulbery Alley, and you can just peek down it. So there it is. It's now a housing estate, as you can see. But somewhere along here, I'll just zoom in to give you a closer look. It's a very, this obviously wouldn't even have been this wide in 1947. It would have just been literally an alley. So that was 1947, Mulbery Alley. We now move on in 1948, and we have a precise location for this one. 1010 North Green Street in the Shigarag area section of Tupelo. So here we have it, the drop pin. I'll give you an aerial shot first of all, and then we will zoom in. So this is the area where they were living in 1948, 1010 North Green Street. We'll have a little bit of a swing around. I would imagine somewhere just here would have been the dwelling. Not quite sure what that is there. Seems to be some sort of concrete pad. Maybe that was even the precise location where it was, although that is showing 1015 Green Street. If we go down a little bit, it should change. There's, well, yeah, that's changing now to 1010 North Green Street. So maybe round about here was the location of the dwelling where they were in 1948. And this is again quite a recent shot. 2019 is shown. I can show you different dates. It hasn't really changed much over the years. So that was 1948 and 1010 North Green Street. And just to add that this was the final place they lived in before they moved to Memphis. Because as we know, in the fall of 1948, they upped sticks and they moved to Memphis. So from September 12th, 1948 to September 20th, 1949, they were at 572 Poplar Avenue. And if we zoom in, we can see here 572. And what it is now is, well, it seems to be some sort of abandoned or derelict eatery, or well, they have the awnings over there. Let's just move down a little bit, see exactly what we have. Turn around. Yeah, it's not really clear what it is, but that's their first, this location right here is their first home in Memphis. September 12th, 1948, September the 20th, 1949. As you can see from the aerial photograph, this is obviously a lot newer building than 1948. But that was the area, that was the location of 572 Poplar Avenue. The next location is very, very famous, very, very well known for Elvis fans. 185 Winchester Avenue, a 2-bedroom apartment, number 328, better known as Lauderdale Courts. So let's zoom in and see exactly what we can see here. I think probably the best place to move him is just there. Okay, so here we are at Lauderdale Courts. And I think we can just make out through the trees 185 on there. So that would have been the entrance that they would have used. This one here is 191. And this one here, 181. Now, it's very interesting, actually. We have some photographs shown, taken of Elvis outside Lauderdale Courts. And he would have been, I will show you those now, and then I'll show you where he would have been standing. Picture 1 with what I assume to be a toy gun. Picture 2, he looks to be a little younger and standing further away from the building. And finally, the third picture of a very proud looking Elvis in his ROTC uniform. So as you can probably tell from the photographs, Elvis would have been standing around about there. We can see these steps behind him. We can't quite see the number and the doorway, but we can see these windows. So Elvis and the camera would have been pointing towards him standing round about here. So this is a very, very famous location for Elvis fans. And you can actually stay in 328. You can stay in Elvis's room as well, and you can sleep in his bed. And of course, around the corner is the plaque that tells us all about Elvis living in Lauderdale Courts. Presley family at Lauderdale Courts. So, as I said, a very, very famous location for Elvis fans and Elvis history. And let's just go around one more time and see that location where he was stood for the photographs. As I say, around about where that tree is blocking the view, he would have been standing around about there with the steps behind him. The freeway, I don't think the freeway would have been there in it was at Highway 40. I don't think that would have been there in 1949 to 1950. They were there from September the 20th, 1949 to January the 7th, 1950. If somebody wants to correct me, they can, but I just think that maybe this here would have been sort of, Winchester Avenue would have been there, but I'm not convinced that Highway 40 would have been there. Now, this is quite an interesting one. From January the 7th, 1950 to April 1953, I have an address of 398 Cypress Street. And as you can see, it now just really represents a no-through laneway, really. It just doesn't lead anywhere. It just comes to an abrupt end. And when I feed in 398, it gives me the drop pin here. So let's just do an aerial. And as you can see, it's just wasteland. It's wooded land on this side and wasteland on this side. But let's just drop the pin. So as you can see, there's the sort of the wooded area, and then this is the, I suppose, scrubland, if you like. There's nothing really much to see around here, although I'm quite intrigued that when you feed in 398 and you can just see something here that maybe looks like a little bit of a bank or something like that. Is that 398? Is that where the Presleys would have lived between 1950 and April 1953? Quite intriguing, that. Okay, we're moving on to the next location, and we do have a specific location for this one. It's 2414 Lamar Avenue, and they rented from the end of 1954 to mid-1955. Now, from obviously mid-1954 to mid-1955, he was beginning to obviously start recording for Sun. So this is exactly where he was living during his early days at Sun. Let's drop the man. And this is it. That building there is 2414 Lamar Avenue. Okay, now it looks to me like it was a number of things in the past, in the recent past. Eater here, so it was an eatery, and ABC 123 would lead me to believe that it was some sort of creche or kindergarten or something like that, play school, and there is the evidence, 2414. So that is where they were between 1954 and 1955. I might even be able to just go back in time a little bit This is August 2007. Let's move back a little bit more, or move forward, I should say. This is September 2011. Again, 2414. April 2014. Now open. We've got obviously Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Minnie. Okay, tomorrow's leaders, whatever that was. Let's jump ahead to July 2016. Yeah. Mother's Love, Childcare. That's where the ABC 1, 2, 3 comes from. And the most recent one I have is taken just a month ago. November 2021. 2414 Lamar Avenue. And the final location is 1414 Getwell Road in Memphis, Tennessee. So this is sort of the last house you could say that they lived in before Elvis rocketed to superstardom. They lived there from mid-1955 to May the 11th, 1956. So let's do the drop pin and see what we can see here. Okay, this is the end-on view. Let's move around a little bit. I'll move down a little bit and see if I can get it. Now here we go. This is it. It's now Lavanderia, whatever that is. Wash World Coin Laundry. Let's see if we can get some different views of it. Let's go back to August 2012. It was still the same, still Wash World. October 2012. Yeah, there's not much of a change. I can go back to 2012, but it's all very, very similar. And 2019. Yeah. So that was the final address before, as I say, Elvis rocketed to superstardom. By the time May the 11th, 1956 came around, he was starting to skyrocket to the incredible success that we know that Elvis had. And as we know, from May 1956, Elvis bought his parents' very, very first home in Audubon Drive. And I'll just, obviously, we're all very, very familiar with this, but I will just drop the pin and we can take a quick look at what it's like today. May 2021, this picture was taken. It's quite interesting when you look at the front fencing here. You see those circles with the lines through them. They actually had music notes on them, which were quickly, how can I put it? Will I say stole, or will I just say that fans helped themselves to them? I'm sure Elvis didn't worry too much, because as he said once, when somebody said about the fans ripping the shirt off his back, he said, well, they put it there in the first place. So that's Audubon Drive. I think I might have some different shots. This one is August 2012. Lovely sunny day. This one, August 2014. Some cars in the driveway and somebody doing a bit of work in the front. April 2019. And finally back to May 2021. I couldn't do a video of Elvis's boyhood homes without including beautiful Graceland. Elvis bought this mansion in March 1957 for $102,500, and it was his home for the next 20 years until his death in August 1977. Just another quick reminder about the live shows that we do on this channel. every Sunday and Wednesday. And the next live broadcast is on Sunday, the 2nd of January 2022. So I hope you can join me, and you can phone the show live, and it's free on Facebook Messenger and Instagram. And I hope you can join me then. Until then, look after yourselves and a happy new year.